It's 2025. A new year, fresh opportunities. But let's be honest, not all of us be ready. Some of you might be walking into the new year, anxious, overwhelmed, and quite uncertain of what's ahead. Maybe 2024 left you exhausted, carrying burdens you didn't know how to let go of. I've been there. I know how it feels. But today I want to share a story from Matthew 14. It's a story about chaos, storms, and faith, and what happens when we fix our eyes on Jesus. So if you feel unsure about this year, lean in, because I think this might be for you. I'm reading Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 33. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him and said, "Truly, you are the Son of God." I absolutely love that story so much. It's packed with so much meaning and lessons, and it's so relatable to us when life feels chaotic. Picture this. The disciples are in a boat in the middle of the night. There's wind and waves crashed up against the side of it. They're probably exhausted and quite scared. Then out of nowhere, Jesus walks over on the water. At first they don't recognize him, they think it's a ghost. But Jesus then says to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." And Peter, being the bold one, says, "Lord, if it's you, call me out onto the water." And Jesus says, "Come." Peter steps out off the boat into the water and walks to Jesus. He can't believe his eyes. He's walking on water. And he looks around. He sees the waves, he sees the wind. And he starts to sink. And the moment he starts sinking, he reaches out his hand and Jesus picks him up and says, "You of little faith, why didn't you trust me?" How often do we do the same? We start off strong and full of faith, and then life gets a little bit loud. The storms of anxiety, doubt, or uncertainty start to creep in, and we lose focus. But here's the beautiful part. Even when Peter started sinking, Jesus still didn't let him drown. Even when Peter fixed his gaze away from Jesus, he still didn't let him drown. This story reminds us that the storms of life are unavoidable. They are going to come. But what's important is where we fix our gaze, where we focus in on. Do we focus in on the storm or the one who can calm it? Now from this story, I think there's 3 key lessons we can take from this and use them in 2025. The first, Jesus is with you in the storm. Notice that it doesn't say there was a storm and then it calmed down and then Jesus met them. No, it says in the middle of the storm, Jesus met them. Jesus will meet you in your chaos, in your storm. That's who he is. He doesn't wait for the storm to pass. He doesn't wait for you to have it all together. He comes to you as you are, right in the middle of your mess, just as he did with Peter and the disciples. The second thing that sticks out to me is that your focus fuels your faith. Now what I mean by that is, Peter walked on the water as long as his eyes were fixed on Jesus. When he let the wind and the waves and the clouds and the storm, cloud his vision and fill his frame, he began to sink. In life, we can't always control the storms, but we can control who we focus on. There's this old saying, I'm not sure who it's from, but it says, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And that's exactly what Peter did. He couldn't control the storm, he couldn't get rid of it. But by adjusting his sails, he looked towards Jesus. He looked towards God. Because when we focus on God's promises instead of our problems, our faith grows exponentially. And the third thing I want to remind you is that Jesus won't let you sink. Even when Peter doubted, Jesus didn't let him go under. He reached out and pulled him up. That's grace. It's not about having it all figured out or having perfect faith. It's about trusting that Jesus is always there to pick you out of your mess, regardless of how deep you think you are. He's always there to catch you when you fall. Now, it's easy to look at this and think, yeah, no, I trust God with the storms of my life. How can we actually apply this? How can we live in this truth in 2025? What can we do to step into 2025 with a heart posture of fully trusting God? Now, here are 3 things I'm aiming to do to live in this truth. And the first is starting my day by fixing my focus. Before the noise of the day hits, take 5-10 minutes just lying in bed, whether it's spend some time in prayer and meditating on scripture. Ask God to help you see the day through his lens. A verse that always sticks out to me in the morning is Psalm 118 verse 24. And it says, "This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it." This one little verse, meditate on this scripture to start your day, can reframe your whole day and change your whole mindset on your response to things that come at you throughout the day. The second thing I'm aiming to do is when the storms hit, refocus. Because life will get loud. Unexpected challenges, tough conversations, hard work relationships, anxiety. And in those moments, pause and ask yourself, what am I focusing on right now? If it's fear or comparison, frustration, judgment, fix your eyes back on Jesus. Remind yourself of his promises. He is with you. He is for you. And he has already overcome the world. I feel like as Christians, it's easy to overlook that truth. But the same God who created the world, who stepped into the world, who died for the world, is the same God who wants a relationship with you. The same God who wants to help you through your struggles. The same God who calmed the storm back then is the same God who wants to calm the storms in your life right now. How awesome is that? The third thing I'm aiming to do daily this year is remember what God's already done in my life. When the storms do feel overwhelming, zoom out and remember where God has carried you before. Like David remembered the lion and the bear before fighting Goliath. Think back on times that God showed up in your life. Write them down if you need to. Save them on your phone wallpaper. Message them to a friend. Do whatever you can to just keep nailing it into your mind how good God's already been. How he's shown up in the past. How he's done it before and he will do it again. Let those memories strengthen your faith for what's ahead. So here's what I want to ask you. What's something that you're walking into 2025 with? Whether it's a fear, a goal, or a prayer. And what's one step you can do to fix your eyes, to refocus your gaze on Jesus? Feel free to drop me a message on Instagram. I'd love to chat with you and pray with you and encourage you as we all walk into this new season and this new year together. If this message spoke to you, I'd really appreciate you to hit the like and subscribe button and share this video with someone you think might need it. And no matter what 2025 holds, remember this. Jesus is with you. The wind and the waves might be loud, but his voice is louder. I'll see you in the next video. Happy New Year and God bless.